what do you like about Christmas? Who doesn't like gifts? You don't like gifts. Well, I have to disagree with you because I like gifts. Who didn't like the gifts that they received this year? I see some hands, yes. Yes. Well, I have to tell that my gift for this Christmas arrived a little late, but I love it. I love my gift. And I know somebody here who received the gift, and for that reason is spending a lot of time in the basement. We know about that. We know that gifts are important for us in Christmas, right? And today we read about gifts. We had 2 readings from the Bible today that Giovanna and Michael did. The first was from the Epistle of St. Paul. Now, epistle is a fancy word which means a letter. St. Paul, who was a very important saint in the life of the church, wrote a letter to one of his disciples. His name was Titus. And in his letter, Paul reminds Titus about faith. And today we read a very important statement that Paul writes in this letter. He says, "For the grace of God has appeared." Now we talk about gifts. We know that Christmas is a season when we like to give gifts and we receive gifts. But the idea comes from the Bible, from the gospel, where God is giving himself to us as a gift. And I think that is the most important gift. Because the word that Paul is using here is very simple, yet very deep. He says a grace. Hayren, we say shnork. Something that has been given to us for free. Not because we necessarily deserve all the gifts that we get on Christmas, but we get the gifts because our parents like us so much. They want us to be happy, right? The same thing is with God. God gives us the most important gift, which is Jesus. And St. Paul continues in his writing saying that now we have that gift, we need to change our lives. We need to live that life of grace. Now I will give you an example. I think this will intrigue the parents more than the children. This is from the life of a great theologian from the last century, a European theologian. His name was Karl Barth. This man who was very famous in his theological writings, in his thinking, that one day he was invited to give a lecture in Chicago, in a university that was packed with all students and thinkers and theologians. And they were listening to the ideas that Karl Barth was giving. It was a lengthy lecture. And at the end of that lecture, Karl Barth, who was an elderly man, he was tired. And the president of the university said, "We know that all of us here would like to ask you questions. But we also know that you are very tired. Therefore, on behalf of all the students here and everybody here, I will ask you only one question." And the president asked, "You are an author of numerous volumes of theology. What is the most important insight in theology that you would like to share with us?" Karl Barth took off his glasses, closed his eyes for a second. He reflected. And then he opened his eyes. And at that time, all the people, the students, were trying to make notes because they thought that this could be the most important thing that he would say. And Karl Barth said, "Jesus Christ loves me." And that is from the Bible, and that is the most important statement in our faith. Today we are here because we want to share and experience the love of God that is being manifested on Christmas. In our second reading of the day, we also read about the 3 wise men. You know that story, right? That was in the part that Michael read. The 3 wise men who traveled long distance to see Jesus. Now they were probably traveling weeks and weeks, maybe even for months, because they were not traveling with an airplane, they were not in an SUV, but probably they were riding the back of a camel or maybe a horse. We're not sure about that. But they were traveling for a long time, and they wanted to do one thing. They wanted to pay homage, as you read. It's a very fancy word, which means they wanted to show their respect to baby Jesus. In the beginning, we talked about receiving gifts, but here we talk about giving gifts. These 3 wise men, they came and they had gifts. And for them to give that gift, it took them they put a lot of effort into that. Sometimes we read about the Christmas stories, and for us, these 3 wise men are just part of the scene of Christmas. But I think there's a great lesson that we need to learn from them, is that for us to see Jesus, to have an encounter with Jesus, to embrace Jesus in our lives, we need to put some effort. We need to devote the best of our abilities so that we can be in the presence of God. I wish all of you a very Merry Christmas. For those who are here with us for the first time, I would like to remind you that we do this kind of service on every first Sunday of the month. The format is the same. You get to sing, you get to read, and you will get a shorter homily than this. This was a bit longer. The purpose of this service is to get to know our church better and to have a closer relationship with our God. Let us continue with our